The Apache tribe originated from Alaska, Canada, and parts of the southwest United States. Eventually, the tribe migrated towards the United States further south and divided itself into two basic regions, with the Rio Grande River serving as a dividing line. The Apache homeland was located in the Southwest Cultural Area, so they were classified as Southwest Indians. The numerous Apache bands roam far and wide in this region, territory that now includes much of New Mexico and Arizona, as well as northern Mexico, western Texas, southern Colorado, western Oklahoma, and southern Kansas. In 2005, 9 different groups of Native Americans continued to identify themselves as Apache. Most Apaches reside on the reservations in Arizona and New Mexico and Mexico. Apaches are also scattered throughout the United States, living off their reservation while retaining their Apache identity. Although divided by geography, ceremonial expressions of culture, and political orientation, all of these groups share common problems and a common identity as Apache, as Native Americans, and as Americans. On hearing the name Apache, many people think of the chief Geronimo along with the warlike nature of the tribe. But early Apache contacts with non-Indians were friendly. Throughout most of their history, the Apaches raided other tribes for food and resources. The Apache also stubbornly resisted Spanish, Mexican, and Anglo-American expansion. The Apache were primarily nomadic hunters and gatherers, seeking whatever game, especially deer and rabbits, and whatever wild plant foods, especially cactus and mesquite seeds, found within their territory. When they could not find enough food to eat in their rugged lands, much of which was desert country, Apache raided the farming villages of the Pueblo Indians, as well as in later years Spanish, Mexican, and Anglo-American settlements. The various Apache groups adopted lifeways from other Indians with whom they came in contact. For instance, some of the western Apache, living close to the Indians of the Rio Grande Pueblos, took up farming. On acquiring horses in the late 1600s through raids on the Spanish and Pueblo Indians, mounted Apache often rode on pursuit of the great buffalo herds. The most common type of dwelling for Apache bands was the wickiup, a domed or cone-shaped hut with a pole framework covered in bush, grass, or reed mats. Wickiups frequently had central fire pits and a smoke hole. The Apache originally wore deerskin clothing. They never wore or wove cotton, but Apaches acquired cotton and wool clothing through trades and raids. They were master basket makers, crafting coiled baskets of many shapes and sizes and with many intricate designs. Apache bands had a loose social and political organization. Each band, which was made up of extended families, had a headman who was chosen informally for his leadership abilities and military prowess, but other warriors could not launch raids without the headman's permission. The Apache believed in many supernatural beings. They considered Usin, the giver of life, the most powerful of the supernatural beings. The Apaches fought many times against America and Mexico in order to resist expansion. These acts of resistance were either led by Geronimo or Victorio between 1849 and 1886, or consisted of small raids and battles. Victorio created bands of warriors to fight off those who were trying to move them from their homeland. The Mexican and American armies had the advantage of being sent supplies from the government. The Apaches had to prepare their own supplies, and having to run away from home to escape the armies left them with very little supplies. In the end, Victorio and the Apaches lost and were taken to the Indian reservation. In April 1882, the Apaches returned to the reservation, killed the chief of police, and departed, taking more Indians with them. Soon after, General George Cook was reassigned to Arizona and given the task of rounding up the hostile Apache. For 2 years, Geronimo's warriors left a trail of destruction throughout the southwest into Mexico. Finally, deep in Sierra Madre of Mexico, Cook negotiated the surrender of Geronimo and nearly 400 Apache in March of 1884. Geronimo and a small band of Indians were taken to Fort Apache, where most of the Indians were content to live in peace. Geronimo, along with many other Indians, escaped from the reservation and fled towards Mexico. The Apache Indians came from the Alaskan region, Canada, and portions of the American Southwest. Eventually, the tribe migrated towards the United States further south and divided itself into two basic regions, with the Rio Grande serving as a dividing line. By 1700, a large portion of the Apache Indians had migrated to the Kansas plains. They were not accustomed to living and farming on the plains, but made do with some crops such as watermelons, beans, and corn. Eventually, their weakness was overtaken by the Comanche tribe. The Apaches were defeated and their land was seized, causing them to move onward to areas like New Mexico, Arizona, Texas, and Mexico. Around the 1730s, the Apache Indians began to battle with the Spaniards. The battles were long and bloody and often resulted in many deaths. Finally, in 1743, a Spanish leader agreed to designate areas of Texas for the Apaches to live, easing the battle over land. As time went on, the Apache Indians developed a strong bond with the white men of this area. At first, relationships were strong, and the Apache felt protected. As things progressed, however, raids began to take place that included the slaughter of their own people and the theft of their goods and livestock. As of 1940, there was a record of only 35 Apache Indians living in the state of Oklahoma, and in 1970 a record of about 1,500 were documented in New Mexico. One day, Mexican troops raided the Apache camp, killing men, women, and children, and absconding with horses, weapons, and supplies. When their chief, Mangus Coloradas, viewed the scene, he ordered the Apache to retreat to New Mexico and arm themselves. Geronimo left behind his dead mother, wife, and children, swearing revenge on the Mexican troops. While most of the Apache believed that Geronimo killings had been properly avenged, Geronimo was not satisfied. He persuaded the other Apache to join him in an attack on the Mexicans. This became his personal mission. For more than a dozen years, Geronimo recruited a small number of Apache and led them in guerrilla-type raids into New Mexico. For the most part, the Indians were after livestock and lightweight booty that they could easily transport back home and divide among their people. Geronimo was wounded on at least 7 occasions, but he always managed to survive. Since he also suffered a series of failed raids, he was not considered a war leader at that time. Cochise was the son of Apache chief Nachi. In his early years, like many Apache warriors living in the mountains of southeastern Arizona, Cochise regularly raided Mexican ranches, stealing horses and other goods. He also fought in battles with other Indian groups. His bravery and battle tactics brought him notoriety. Cochise and his warriors grew bold and confident, and the chief became a foe of non-Indians. The guerrilla tactics combined with smoke and mirror communications among his warriors, he launched a series of devastating attacks against non-Indians in Arizona.